How are you? I hope all things are well with you. In spite of all things, it's a wonderful Wednesday, and I want to welcome you to Through the Eyes of Others. Through the Eyes of Others is a conversation about the emotional residue that people may experience while watching real life being lived in front of them. This is our time to be able to look at life through the eyes of people who have just shown resilience in life and who have been able to move life forward in such a way that others get to emulate their recovery and wellness. This is a time that Lisa and I come on to be able to open doors so that we can share wonderful stories of how people have put life together in such a way that wellness is a reality. And so, without further ado, I'm going to bring my buddy Lisa K on. Lisa, say hello to the folks and chop it up with us a little bit.
Well, good evening, everybody. Wow, what a great evening to come on tonight. With all that's going on right now, to come on together. Hopefully some people will take a break and from the news and get some peace tonight and just kind of join us tonight as we come together as brothers and sisters in recovery and you know see through the eyes of one of our sisters who's going to share her amazing story and where we can find hope and inspire us to move forward and in times that we don't think we can, that we can take a nugget from her story today and plant it inside of us, that it will rise up to the top when we need it. And so I'm just hoping that folks can do that. And if not, hopefully a lot of our people will come back and watch it later. We just ask people to share this. You never know who needs a word, who needs encouragement in recovery. And I know myself, it may be a sentence or two words that somebody needs one night to set them free, to set them to see that there is hope, that not all is lost. And it just takes somebody saying one thing to share about their life. And we are just so happy and thrilled to have our special guest tonight who is willing to be vulnerable and brave to share her story with us and to inspire hope and to bring awareness around trauma and vicarious trauma. And, vicarious trauma is something that, we try to keep in front because a lot of us, at Promise Resource, as well as a lot of the folks that follow us, work in this field or take care of people or just need to know about this because it can sneak up on you as we are in a world that is very much aware of trauma now. A lot of education is around that, and we're just more aware. And so we need to understand what's going on with us. And when we are helpers and we care, and it is the cost of loving people and caring deeply. And we need people like that. We need to be able to love each other and stand with each other around anything. But there's a cost to that. And we have to be aware that there is. But the hope is that there's something we can do to take care of us because we want to be there for each other in those times of needs and to grow stronger. So we are excited tonight to bring another conversation through some beautiful eyes, a different story. And I've heard so much about you, and I cannot wait for you to introduce yourself to our folks, and can't wait to hear about your story firsthand from you. And I just thank you so much for being willing to come on tonight with us through the eyes of others. So welcome.
Thank you.
I'm excited. So let's get this thing going.
Let's go. Thank you, Lisa. This is my dear and forever friend, Pastor Selena Flack. And Selena is coming to us from Philadelphia, PA, North Philly. Don't get it wrong. They don't live there anymore. That's where she's from. And so Selena is the pastor of In Tune and In Touch Ministries in Philly. But her life story connected to where she is in her faith has to do with building wellness and recovery. And her story is compelling. And I thought it would be great to start the year Selena, to have you to come on and to share with those who are in our viewing audience, to be able to hear some inspiration because of your story of resilience. So without any further ado, I want to introduce Pastor Selena. And Selena, if you would come and tell our viewers a little bit about who you are, and then let's dig in.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Aaron, Lisa, so much for giving me this opportunity. I want to say that first. And I just think it's a powerful thing, what you're doing. This Promise Resource Network is so needed. I heard you talk about the cost of loving and caring, Lisa. And it is a cost, it is a cost, but it's one that I, like yourselves, are willing to pay, that others would be able to, walk over that bridge, whether it be my life story or whatever, in order to get to the other side. So with that, I'm Selena Flax. And I just love helping. I do. I'm so thankful again for this opportunity to help and just to share a little bit about me, what it was like for me, what happened, and kind of what it's like now. There's so much right now that is a direct result of the change in my life. Some things that have been healed over and repaired in some senses. I currently, as Aaron talked about, pastor in Tune and in Touch Ministries, which is a ministry that is also like Promise Resource Network. It is a resource center. We've been in existence for the last 3 years now. And we have a lot of recovery programming, from meetings to resources to connections with rehab facilities and other things, provided, a person needs that. And I'm thankful for this network as well, to help others with some of the things that maybe we don't have. Currently, I am actually remarried. And it'll be, yay, it'll be 3 years actually in May. And that's been really good. And also a large part of my recovery story. And I think for me, recovery just keeps going on and on and on. It really does. It's like kind of an onion, peeling it. You just go through layers and layers and layers. And those things that I thought, were healed over, I find they need healing yet in another area, or even totally made new. So, so in a nutshell, that's kind of like where I am right now. But what it was like, is it okay to go there now, or?
Go.
Okay. All right. So Aaron gave you a little bit about me. I am born and raised North Philly. I will always represent, praise God, the North Side, and kudos to North Philly Project. But with that said, much of my upbringing, was there. I, went to the Catholic school in the area. I am an only child, so I had that thing going on too. So life presented, I think, kind of what it did for many people. For me, being raised at that time, was hard. I was able to be exposed to a lot of things, that meant being privy to just some other ideas and other ways of looking at things, as opposed to just the environment that I lived in. And I'm really thankful for that. But anyway, moving forward, life presented a lot of challenges for me. Even as I was growing up, it seems like things were always felt kind of different, or like I didn't belong. And I found myself in many instances trying to belong in whatever way that meant. If it meant conforming to the environment, doing what I didn't like just so that I could feel like I was like, that's kind of what I did. And eventually I ran into, drugs and alcohol, and it became a way of life for me. And one which was not at all productive. And although it was, I would say, kind of short-lived in a sense, I hear some stories of people having like a long career, with drugs and alcohol. Mine wasn't that long, but I think to me it was just as taxing. There were so many things that took place during that short period of time, from the compromise to the behaviors, attitudes, and acting out that represented everything opposite of what I was taught, what I learned. Just kind of doing strange things for change and all of that kind of stuff. And I was given the opportunity to recover multiple times. It presented itself to me, and I would kind of take the bite because I was kind of tired of doing the things that I was doing, but didn't really connect the whole thing, like the core of it, what was really going on with me. You know, you guys talked about trauma, vicarious trauma, and you know, now I understand today that all of those things tied in, like that drugs and alcohol was just a symptom of my dis-ease and my dysfunction. There were so many deeper things, you know, that went on. Anyway, in lieu of those multiple opportunities that I was given to get sober and stay sober, I ceased just a few, but I didn't maintain recovery. And it got very, very bad. And I went to Williamsport, Pennsylvania, to get sober. By this time, I already had one child who I was really not at all a mother to. She was still just an infant when I went to Williamsport, Pennsylvania to get sober. And although I was given some suggestions when I got there, what staying sober looked like, and people presented that before me, not only by way of mouth, but even with their own lives, I kind of still had that thing where I thought I was different. You know, I thought that that's not for me. That's not going to work out for me. So I had the defiance in addition to all of my other things going on. And I really didn't listen to the suggestions that I was given, you know. And I remember one of the suggestions I was given, they told me, they said, Selena, stay out of relationships, right? Because you don't even know how to relate to yourself. And I thought, again, these people are strange. They don't know what they're talking about. I am not like them. And as a result, I got into a relationship because interest was expressed that I was a, you know, wonderful person. I was a beautiful person, and I just fell for it. And I, in turn, got married. I had more children, and I stayed away from drugs and alcohol for a very long time, about 8 years, as a matter of fact. But life started showing up. I remember some of the difficulty in that relationship. Today, I can see it as what it really was. And I had a Selena problem. You know, I hadn't dealt with so many things that meant what I was experiencing at that time. And I was trying to cover it up with the surface, or on the, you know, the surface, and cover up the symptoms and just only deal with those. So we had some issues in the marriage that meant financially not being kind of stable. It meant not really addressing real, again, issues. So we kind of went to church on top of it, you know, thinking that'll do it, that'll heal it, you know, and we can pretend, and I can wear a white skirt or a white blouse and a black skirt and sing over top of it, and it all should be well. And it wasn't well. And I just tell you, it wasn't well. And as a result, a lot of things begin to come up, you know, that meant who I really was and what I needed to deal with. It was time to deal with. And those things started manifesting through robbing and stealing. I was on a job, and I really felt like I didn't have what I wanted, what I needed, the provision, unfortunately, of which I thought I should have from a husband or from a family setting. I wasn't receiving. And so I decided that I was going to do some strange things for the change that I was looking for. And I did. And a lot of that strange stuff resulted in me actually serving time in prison. And, you know, at this time, it was a small town. I don't know if any of you guys know about Williamsport, Pennsylvania. But it was very, very small. And so these things got out. By this time, my husband was actually pastoring, you know, and it got real weird, real fast. And, you know, I had to wind up again serving time for the things that I did. And we, you know, once I got out of prison, I still had my issues. I still had the things. Mind you, I was not drinking and I was not, which today I realize when I think of my story and when I recall to my mind the events and the episodes, lets me remember and know for a fact that drugs and alcohol were just a symptom. That wasn't really it. You know, as a matter of fact, I see it now as it being a solution because they helped me not feel, you know, it helped me not deal. And of course I didn't heal. And fate had it that when I came home from prison, I had all of these things to deal with, you know, trying to find work, trying to establish that image again. That's a large part of my story too, working on image time and what I thought I needed to look like. And so that's, again, what I would become. So I faced a lot of those things, and I didn't face them with much success. And as a result of it all, I started drinking again. And I can remember, you know, picking up a drink thinking, wow, I feel so much better. But if you don't know, the disease of addiction is so progressive. It really is. And I heard it said that one is too many and 1,000 is not enough. And I just wanted to feel that good again. And so I kept drinking, and I started all the behaviors again, like all of the stuff again. And, you know, I remember that marriage, I was going to split. We were going to split and break up at that time. And I was going to go back to Philadelphia and he was going to stay in Williamsport. But something happened. And I don't know if it was an act of providence, a rude awakening of sort, but I didn't want to split my family. I was going to take 2 of the children. By this time we had 4, and I was going to take 2 of the children, and he was going to take 2 of the children. And I just couldn't see that happening. And so we made a conscious decision for that not to happen. And we decided to go get some help. And I remember us going to Delaware, and we sat under some tutelage of which I felt very, very isolated, yet even more there. I felt beat up. I felt condemned. I felt put out. You know, I used to tell the story that it was the person, you know, and even though that may be so, I realized that there were so many things inside of me that needed to be dealt with. There were so many things that I wasn't really getting to the core of. And so a lot of what I heard and a lot of what I saw was through the eyes and feelings of a clogged filter. You know, it wasn't really real. A lot of the issues in many senses I see now was kind of fancied. I was living through, you know, the eyes of my past, things I had been through, things I had experienced, which kind of closed my mind to new things. At any rate, we were in that ministry for a while. Just kind of, I think we all felt beat up. I really do. I think we all were kind of wounded. And that's what I realized in so many cases is why I aim, even where God has me now, to heal the damage. You know, we go to church, we get delivered, we don't do the things that we used to do, and we tell God yes and all that, but we're kind of walking around like damaged goods, you know, and that healing process, it has to take place. I do believe in wholeness. And unfortunately, at that time, that's not what I got. I wasn't dealing with the stuff that I needed to deal with. And so as a result of just kind of remedying the symptoms and all the things that were on the surface, the cycle just started all over again. So although my career wasn't very long as far as using, it was short-lived in the times that I did it, but it was just as impactful to me. There were times where I don't even know what happened. You know, that's how progressive the drink had gotten for me. I didn't know, like my girls would tell me, well, this is what happened. This is what you did, you know. And so we wind up moving to Philadelphia because that was another part of the unmanageability, you know, in my life and his life and our lives. We were just like moving from place to place to place to place. And, you know, we moved back to Philadelphia. And for me, that's where, you know, my real recovery, you know, being opened up to the things that meant real change started. You know, we were in church the whole time. And I can tell you something, it's nothing like relationship. You know, I knew religion for a long time, but I don't know that I really had relationship. I kind of looked at God as somebody that was willing to beat me up, you know, and kick me out. And I really couldn't live up to his standards anyway. So kind of what's the need of trying? You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I kind of faked the funk and did what I thought I needed to do. Um, but when I got to Philadelphia, things start happening that were really life changing, like being on a job and being so drunk that as a result, I lost the job. You know, going through situations that meant me addressing my drinking, that meant me addressing my feelings. And I decided, you know, to stay sober. I decided to do what it took to stay sober. And when I thought about, you know, sobriety, even the word, it means soundness of mind, you know, and that was deep for me because I just thought it meant not inebriated, you know, not drunk, you know, but it means so much more than that. And so I got into recovery and I went through the anonymous program, and I allowed those people to help me. I did. I allowed myself not to be, at that time, I was an evangelist, you know, not to be the great evangelist, to know it all. You know, I went in empty and humble, you know, and I was taught about this thing called HOW. And I was told that's how it works. And that HOW stands for honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And I had to get honest about what was really going on with me, the exact nature, how I felt not a part of, how I felt I wasn't enough, how much of my activities had everything to do with my not feeling worthy. Um, Many of my decisions were based on just, again, not feeling worthy. And so I started dealing with that stuff. I had to become open, you know, and even today, you know, I still do, you know, although I can get honest, I'm not always open to the things that mean change. You know what I'm saying? It's like, because that stuff is familiar and it's comfortable. And so I was taught to be open, you know, about what's really going on. And not only that, what can take place for change to happen, you know, and then become willing to make that change, you know. So today, those are the principles that I still live by. There's so much more, you know, there's so much more, but that's the base, that's the core, you know, of how I try to address things with that HOW, you know, honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. Because I made that conscious decision to work in the how, it affected every area of my life, y'all, every area, you know, not just my work relationship, not just my church. It affected my relationship with God. It affected my relationship with my husband at that time. And I realized that it takes two to make a thing go right or wrong, you know, and it wasn't going right. And so even though at that time I didn't quite have all of the understanding that I do today, I realized that two can't really walk together except they agree. I realized that I had not been at all faithful in that relationship, even in the way of emotionally, you know. I didn't give it my all. You know, it's funny, I was talking to my daughter uh, just about a month ago. And again, I come to more and more awareness. I'm kind of like Paul. I don't claim to have already arrived or been made perfect, but I press, you know. And we were talking, and I said to her, I said, you know, I'm married because I wanted my children to have a father, you know. And it was like a ding, like that's probably not a good reason, you know what I mean, to base a marriage on, you know. And it could have been that your children would have still had a father even if you hadn't married, you know. And that awareness, like, it's things like that that help me. Long as I stay in that HOW, that kind of, those epiphanies and those things like that keep happening for me, you know. Again, I wasn't emotionally honest as I look over it today. I wasn't, I didn't have a voice because I didn't know how to communicate effectively. I let a lot of things happen that should not have happened. And then as a result of me being at my limit, I had an outburst, you know, or an implosion. I never knew how to effectively communicate you know, and I realized that today. And so it came out through other behavior, through infidelity, adultery, you know, stuff like that. And so, you know, in looking at all of those things, with these new eyes, you know, I realized this is probably not going to work. You know, this is not a good something to build on a relationship. You know, as a result, I left that marriage. And and you know, moving forward, I always talk about that because that's real for me. Being in something that I don't like, you know, or being in something that doesn't work for me, and for the sake of making it look good, you know. But I heard it somewhere, you know, Selena, you can't save your face and your behind. You're gonna have to choose one, you know. And so that image time, it doesn't work out. You know, it really doesn't work out. And I realized that, you know, I can't, God can, so I'm gonna let him. And I came out of that marriage, you know. You know, I was seeing someone, you know, at the time, you know, and I really liked this man. I really honestly liked this man, you know, and we were friends, and I could talk to this man, and you know, I found comfort in him. He found comfort in me. And one of the things that I knew is that I didn't want to live any kind of way, though. I didn't want to be in a relationship and be doing everything else too. Like, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to have secrets. You know, that's a large part of that crazy story of mine. Secrets. I can't tell people this, and I can't tell people that, even down to, you know, some of the things that happened to me coming up, the molestation, the fondling and things like that. You know, even then I was taught, when I ever expressed that, not to feel. And so I went into a lot of relationships not feeling, not saying anything. But I realized with this relationship, I could speak. You know, I felt I had a voice. But I didn't want to kind of go on. I felt like I was sneaking and peeking. You know, I thought I was hiding, and I didn't want to do that. I really didn't. I had since, when I left the first marriages, not only did I leave, but I came out of the ministry that we were in, because we did have a ministry. And I did it the best way that I knew how, which I thought was the right way. And I wrote a letter to the congregation to say, you know, I won't be here anymore. I was pastoring, and I'm not gonna be here, basically. And you know, I left, and I was very broken, you know, because although I knew that I was leaving for the good, I wasn't sure of what to do. You know, I wasn't sure of exactly the path that God had for me, but I knew that I needed to go. And you know, I did some heavy work, some deep dealing, you know, some feeling, and some healing, with just some things, the way I see them, the way, versus what I would like them to be, how they really are, you know. And with this relationship, you know, with this man, I made a decision that if this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do. We're going to be in a relationship, and I'm not going to kind of be hiding out with you and doing things that I don't feel are up to par, up to the standard, you know, that I choose to live, you know. And he agreed and said, you know, that we would marry. By this time I had gotten my divorce, and, you know, things like that. And we got married. And, you know, has it been wonderful and glaring, and we're all riding into the sunset, just feeling so happy and gay? No, it hasn't been like that. But has it been wonderful? Yes, it has. Because as I learn, and as I grow, and as I continue to stay open, honest, and willing, things happen for me. You know, today, today is good. You know, we've had some speed bumps, we've had some trials, we've had some issues, but what I get and what I understand is that nobody comes into anything already made, you know. And there are a lot of things that we have to deal with, even when we don't want to. And when we get in a relationship, especially, those things we got to deal with, and they're going to come up. And so today, he and I both have chosen to deal with that stuff, you know, and to address those issues. I love it. I really do. I love being really transparent. Like somebody said, transparency. Praise God. I really do. I love being authentic, but I am being careful because there are other people involved in my story, and I would like them to tell their side. You know what I'm saying? But and I don't want to accuse. Like I said, when I look at things, y'all, I see the part I play. You know, I see most times when there is chaos, craziness, somewhere I got the ball rolling. Somewhere I probably did something to step on the toes of somebody else, and they decided to retaliate, you know. And so today I try to remain there, you know, and say even with what responsibility that I have, like as a pastor, as a mother, and recently a new grandmother of a 2-month-old granddaughter. But I realized that I have to own what I do and what I don't, you know, and accept not only who I am and who I'm, but also who I'm not. And today I try to do what I can do to really right size, you know, if that means getting the help from somebody that I need, being authentic and honest, because that's the only way I can get the help, is to be honest, you know, and to be real about what's going on versus what's not going on. And it has served as not only a means of help, but it has also served as a means of light for so many other people. You know, it's amazing how, especially where I am right now in ministry, how many people are really wounded and hurting, right? And because we have the gifts and we have the talents and we can make it do what it do, and we can shine even when it's raining and all of that kind of stuff. And we have, thank God, platforms like this, but they can sometimes tell stories that are not really real. You know what I mean? And it's an imagery that we put out to other people, and it just kind of starts a real vicious cycle that's not real. And so I'm grateful, you know, that I am able, you know, to be able to share, you know, with somebody about what it's really like for me and how life is really good, you know, when I address these things, when I deal with them. And there is hope, you know, for those that are listening, there is hope. There's so much. I could be on here for hours. So I tried to kind of compact it and put it like that. So
it's so much.
That's it.
Yeah, it is so much. Your story has always, you know, I'm always telling you to write a book. Your story is always inspiring because of the segments in the process. I'm gonna bring Lisa on in a moment. She's gonna talk about some of the things she heard, but I know they're just chunks still. Like you said, you could be here for hours. There was the weight. Now, as I'm looking at you, I know your stature, but your spiritual stature with the broad shoulders, because in that you also was, as an only child, a caregiver for your mother during that whole process while you were working out things. So it's just so many things, but through it all, you like the Phoenix, you rose, you got up, you're there, and you continue to, and it's inspiring. Lisa, jump in. What are some of the things you heard connecting with vicarious trauma from this very, very compelling story called Selena?
Wow. Selena, I could sit with you for hours, honey.
I'd be glad to.
I would love to. One of the things that you said that resonated with me so much that I've really decided to kind of sit with myself, and I know there's probably others that are watching now and maybe even later that might feel the same, is you made the statement that you were an only child. And I'm an only child.
Okay.
And so, yes. And so normally when people hear that, they go, oh, you so spoiled. Well, that might be true to a certain extent. But I have learned over my years in my recovery, as well as the studying and the teaching of trauma and vicarious trauma, just how much trauma goes on being an only child. And the things that we endure as only kids, that we have never been able to speak about because of not being accepted, that stigma around being an only child. And so I'm glad you brought that up, because I think we could do a whole class or classes around folks who carry that, because even as an adult now, I'm a grandmother too. And when I say I'm an only child, just the stuff that will come out of people's mouth about that.
Yes.
Um, and so that stops me sometimes from some healing, to be honest with you. You made the comment, or you brought forth the how, the honesty, openness, and willingness. And so as only kids, that can make us not be, that can make us not want to embrace that how,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so you kind of did this double overcoming, that I just want to commend you for, because I've learned that I've always thought I was a very open person, but I've also learned that that wasn't true at all. I was very selective,
Okay.
and I was very grandiose around what I would present, and I would make it larger than life just so I wouldn't have to try to, it was a filler, so I didn't have to get to the other stuff, right? That I wasn't willing to talk about, which was a lot, right? So thank you for sharing that. Um, you also said, and I love this. We could do another class on this. The part I play, the part I play. Um, wow. So in your ministry now, as all the things you've gone through, um, and now that you're back, you're able to stand back and really look at your journey. And now that you're practicing your how out loud. I'm sure not only on this platform, but other platforms in your ministry,
Mm-hmm.
you're modeling the how, not only just preaching about it, but you're modeling it. So now as you're doing your how and you're sitting back and you're just kind of thinking about it, and as you see others that you're ministering to, in your agency, that are trying to their best to get in recovery and stay in recovery, and you're watching other family members as well who are trying to support. Can you talk just a minute or two about just the vicarious trauma that maybe you have endured just watching now, or what you've encountered from other family members, others that are trying to support, as you watch others try to model the how, and what that's been like for you?
It has been a very, I would say, fulfilling, exposing, um, like mind-blowing experience, because there's so many different results, and sitting back watching. There's that feeling of knocking on the door at a friend's house at midnight and you're not sure if they're there, but then the lights come on. There's that feeling. And then there's the feeling of, wow, you really don't see this, like you don't see that hole right there. But so it's a lot of different feelings that I get, a lot of different experiences, I should say, that I get from it. But I'm encouraged to be as authentic as possible. I realize with everything, though, that you sometimes have to use prudence, right? But to at least be open enough to let people know that they're not alone. For me, that's what I felt, alone. I felt like no one understood, like, I'm just so different, and so I try and be as, relative as possible, with people. Some of the experiences that I have had with some people who are really trying to walk in this HOW, they have had family members who still are like resistant to their change. Like, I hear all of that, but all I know is that you did this and you did that. I don't want to come to your little church with the bald head lady. I don't want to do none of that kind of stuff. That's good. Just stay on over there, and to be a encouragement to them too is a task, because that's what we desire, right? For when I get sober, when I get clean, when I change, right? I want my family especially to accept my change, and that's where I share how I understand now that maybe the reason I wasn't well informed about how my girls would react to me leaving their father was because if I had known that I would go through the trauma, oh my, of their feelings and their emotions, I might not have left. you know. So I can relate to that when people are kind of stuck and not changing because of the care of how is going to react to it, you know what I mean? Or if that someone that they love a lot reacts indifferently or doesn't receive them, you know. I get a lot of that. Like I said, what I find more than anything as far as the recovery from the substance is the damage. Like that's what we're working with, like the damage, the brokenness, right? That thing is deep and intense. And, you know, to try to, you know, be that glue, you know, I found though, you guys, Lisa, Aaron, and everybody's watching, to really, really tell my story and leave the rest alone. You know, because you will get, you said it earlier, something, you'll hear something that you can relate to. And where I see it's tough and it's rough and I may not be the one, then I try to connect you to a source that is the help that you'll need. You know, I direct everyone to him because he gets all the glory. You know, it was for him that I had the change of heart. It was behind his goodness and his mercy, you know, that I am who I am today. But, you know, I had to receive it. And it took a couple different kind of vessels, right, for me to receive it. Like it took some peculiar people, some, you know what I mean, some different things that happened, and I realized that could be other people's story too. And so I'm very like you asked me, you know, what have I experienced? And I've experienced a lot of different things, you know, when it comes to people walking in their HOW. I've experienced resistance too, Lisa. You know, where people are like, no, but what can I do but think about Selena? I remember when I too wanted to tell you about my pain, but I didn't want to tell you about my part, you know. And so as a result, I just kind of kept going through the vicious cycle, you know, because I didn't want to deal with me, who I could deal with. The serenity prayer comes to mind, you know. God grant me the serenity to accept what I can't change, you know, the courage to change what I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. What I need to accept that I can't change. I can't change you. I can't change Aaron, right? I can't change everything around me, you know, most times. But the courage to change the things that I can talks about, for me, the courage to change my mind and maybe change the way I look at it, you know, and the wisdom to know what's my business and what's not, you know. I'm learning that. And I try to relay that message, you know, so that way people can get, you know, the help that they need. But I've experienced a lot of things when it comes to people walking in this, you know, newfound way of life.
You like it, huh, Lisa?
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. And I know that we're running close, and I know Aaron. I know I want to tie it up. I want to keep going.
I know, me too.
We need to have a part two of
Okay.
this for real. For
I
real.
would love it. Absolutely. I would love it.
Yeah,
We can definitely do that. Here's what I want to ask. So you have this magnificent wellness and recovery resume. You've gone through a lot to be able to say, this is my resume. You have a new chapter in life coming up. You have a new part of the journey that you're getting ready to write, a new plot twist. How does everything on the up to right now resume prepare you for and now launch you into this great what next for you? And it will be great.
Oh yes, I'm claiming the same. I'm claiming the same. What prepares me is, I would say, the experience. You know, I was taught this. I heard it, but I'm really learning to apply it. And that is not to change or shut the door on my past, but to be open to how it will affect my tomorrow. You know, to use everything. You know, the scripture says, gather all the fragments that nothing be lost. You know, usually whole things are put together, fragmented things. You know what I'm saying? And so not to shut the door on anything, but to be open. And so moving forward, I believe that that kind of base, that core, and definitely the HOW, like I totally can't let that go. You know, I totally need to get a shirt that says that. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, staying there, Aaron, I think will propel just that wonderful future that you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Selena, I want to thank you. I know you've got to go. You've got a You got Bible study coming up. You took the time to hang out with us, and it's a great way to start the new year, right? I do want to share this with you, and you'll get it. Through the eyes of others, when Lisa and I talked about this was actually going to be a book called Through My Mother's Eyes, because as an only son, and you've met my mom, and as an only son, I lived so much of my experience through her joys, her pains of life. It has evolved into through the eyes of others, right? So that was the origin. And the reason I'm telling you this, we talked last year, and I kept saying, you got to hear my friend Selena. I've got to get her on because life through her eyes it encompasses so much, and so many connectors and so many lives have been blessed through your lived experience, through your ups and your downs. You've been such and still are such an inspiration, to the point, again, I told my partner, Lisa, I need the world to hear Selena from this platform. Thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you so much for considering. And as Aaron put down there, you got to come back. I think that's Mackenzie. You got to come back. And so we'll schedule a time with you. We'll get you back. We love you. We appreciate you. Lisa, what you say?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So we got a lot of part twos, please.
Okay.
Everybody is yesing and hearts and all those thumbs up. And absolutely, I think that I would love to have you back on, just through your eyes, dig deeper into the part I play, the how. There's other things. I mean, I've got a whole page and a half written of just fragments, not paragraphs, but just fragments of things that you said that I wanted to dive into, that I will continue to make notes on afterwards. So I do want you to come back so we can dive into you a little bit more. And I think that everybody that came on tonight, and I think folks who even watch this later, will be, please have you back. So
Thank you for the opportunity. I love you both. Thank you for what you're doing. And remember, if I can be of service to you in any way, not just on this platform, but in any way, please let me know.
Okay. Oh, we're going to be talking about that. Don't you worry about that. We will be talking about that before we end. We will be talking about that.
Okay.
All right. Selena, we love you. Thank you, my friend. Everybody, if you can, please share this. Get this out on your platforms. I want to thank those of you who came on to view. It was a wonderful way to start the new year. And hopefully this is just the beginning of relationship with Selena on this platform, but also just great conversations to come. Lisa, as usual, thank you, buddy. I appreciate you. And we will see all of you next week.
Wonderful. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you.